ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सागरवर्णनाधान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे yeah, 13th chapter. As you can see, the title is Nature, Enjoyer, and the Consciousness. This is beginning with this chapter is a new section of Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 chapters focus on basic foundation. What is soul? Who is soul? Who is God? How to, karma yoga, and the fundamentals, right? Fundamentals of yoga, dhyana yoga, all these fundamentals. We call it as, the section of karma yoga. The first 6 chapters primarily they focus on karma yoga, how one can engage in work in this world while not being entangled by it, right? So that was the focus of first 6 chapters. Chapters 7 to 12, they are the middle section. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. 1 to 6 is one section. 7 to 12 is the middle section, which we concluded last week. And 13 to 18 is the last section. 1 to 12 focuses on fundamentals, karma yoga, and all the yogas, but focus is on karma yoga, how to act in this world. And middle section, 7 to 12, focuses on bhakti yoga. If you look at a lot of the chapters, they focus like 8th chapter, 7th chapter, complete descriptions of how one can achieve perfection through bhakti yoga, right? And then 13. So once you learn 12th chapter, the goal is very clear, right? Ultimately, one should surrender to God. That is the highest perfection. That is the spiritual perfection. That's very clear. However, because the jiva is in the material world, he still has to execute his duties in this world. He needs a better understanding of this world, how this world operates. A lot of practical knowledge about many things in this world, right? To achieve, the goal is still achieve perfection, described in the last 7 chapters, for example, right? Or even the first 6 chapters. The goal is to achieve perfection, but to achieve, how one can mold his life while living in this world, how to lead life in this world so that one can achieve perfection. That is the lot, a lot of practical aspects, as well as understanding of how this world works. We need to know how this world works to better. For example, if you join, you study it, but then when you join job, you need to understand your workplace also very well. Unless you understand the workplace, the work you do cannot, um, it won't be perfect. Even though you have knowledge of how to develop programs, how to write code, how to debug, but still you need to know what you have to work on, how, what is the priorities, and how things will pan out, when things should be delivered. So a lot of practical aspects are still very relevant, right? So this section, 13th till 18th, it talks about those aspects, how this world operates, so that you can apply the teachings from 7 to 12 while living in this world, right? That is the focus. There's a little, lot of sections in this chapter. So it begins with Arjuna's further inquiries. Arjuna has further inquiries. He talks about Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetrajna, Jnanam, Jnayam. These 6 aspects. Prakriti is the material nature. Purusha is the Supreme Lord. Purusha, he is the one Purusha, the Lord. I mean, even Jiva considers himself as Purusha. Purusha means, the literal meaning of Purusha means enjoyer. One who enjoys is called a Purusha. Right? Doesn't mean Stree doesn't enjoy. The Jiva in this material world is called Tatastha Sakti. Tatastha Sakti means marginal potency. It's not internal potency of the Lord. It is not external potency of the Lord. External potency is the Jada Shakti or material energy made of Bhumi or Bhumi Raponalo Vayu, right? Earth, water, air, ether, Kamano Buddhi, intelligence. All these do not have consciousness. Those are all called external energy of the Lord or Bahiranga Shakti. And Lord has another energy called internal energy. Internal energy is Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini. Hladini potency is Lakshmi Devi. Right? Lakshmi Devi is Lord's internal potency. Lakshmi Devi or Radharani, they're all considered Lord's internal potency. So Lord always directly gets served by the internal potency. And there are many pure devotees, or the people with no material contamination. They also engage as servants of the internal potency, right? So the jiva means human beings, animals, reptiles, everything. The living entities with life or consciousness, they are called Tatastha Sakti or marginal potency. They are in between internal potency and external potency. External potency is all material or with no life. Internal potency is full of life. It directly engages in the service of the Lord. And then marginal potency is jivas like us who are in the material world, are in between the material and the spiritual energy. But still, we are considered the prakriti of the Lord. Prakriti means the energy of the Lord. Either it is internal energy or external energy or marginal energy. All of them are energies, are prakriti. So we actually come under prakriti. But we think, what do we think? We think that we are the enjoyer. We think we are the Purusha. That is the misconception of the Jiva, right? When he understands, actually my real joy is in serving the Lord, then he actually surrenders to Purusha, right? And then he really enjoys. So he has the opportunity to either dominate the material energy. That is what the whole world is trying to do. Everybody is trying to build this, they build that. It's all about dominating the material energy. That's what we are doing. Most of us, at least in the world, what they do is to dominate the lower energy, the lifeless energy. They dominate that and seek and consider themselves to be Purusha, the enjoyer. They cannot dominate the internal potency, internal energy, or they cannot dominate God. But they can dominate the Jada Shakti or the material energy. They think they can dominate, but actually Prakriti is very strong. Prakriti is actually energy of the Lord. So because it is energy of the Lord, the Jiva cannot really dominate. So Daivihi Esha Gunamayi verse is about that, right? If you remember, Daivihi Esha Gunamayi is actually talking about Vihi Esha. 7th chapter, if you all remember, study this. Daivihi Esha Gunamayi Mamamaya Duratyaya. Gunamayi means actually material energy, right? What is the nature of it? It is actually Daiva. It is the energy of God. All the things of this world actually are energy of the God. Mamayamaya Duratyaya. Because it is Mamaya, my energy, Duratyaya, very difficult to overcome. Mam evaye prapadyante, one who takes surrender unto me. Prapadyante means surrender. Mam evaye means to me, one who surrenders unto me. Mayam etam tarantite. I will make them overcome. They can easily cross beyond it. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, we'll understand more about modes of nature in this chapter and the next, is difficult to overcome. This is difficult to overcome. That's why the 13th to 18th chapter are described, so that we'll get some clues on how to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it, right? So the only way to overcome the influence of material energy is to surrender to Krishna, right? So Prakriti, Purusha. Kshetra. Kshetra means the field. Kshetra, right? Kurukshetra, the field known as Kuru, by the term Kuru, right? It's called land, right? A land or field, agricultural field, right? Is a field. Body is also considered Kshetra, where Lord resides and this Jiva also resides. So anywhere, anything can stay is called Kshetra. Kshetrajna, the knower of the Kshetra, right? We think we are the knower of Kshetra. I mean, there are, right? But there is also one more Kshetrajna, that is the Paramatma. So within the body, there is Kshetrajna, there is one Kshetrajna which is the self, and the another Kshetrajna which is Paramatma. Right? Within the heart of every Jiva, there is both Jiva and Paramatma. Jnana means knowledge. The knowledge about who is actual Kshetrajna, real Kshetrajna is actually God, Paramatma, within the heart. Jnaya means what is to be known, right? So these are the various questions asked by Arjuna after hearing about, Bhakti Yoga, right? Because he need to know the world so that he can engage in the right way to this world. And then Krishna answers these questions, the questions 3 and 4 first, and then he answers rest of the questions, right? So this whole chapter is about answering these questions, right? So he answers 3 and 4 in the next 5 verses, 6 verses, and then he further answers 5th question about Jnanam and Gayam in 8 to 12, and then he answers 6th in object of knowledge in the next 13th to 19th verses, and then he answers the first 2 questions, Prakriti and Purusha, in the the last but one section, and the vision of knowledge, right? So it's all around these 6 important questions posed by Arjuna. So that's what we are going to discuss now. So let's go to the verses. Yeah, we already discussed. 1 to 6 is about Karma Yoga primarily. Perfection of actions performed to please Krishna is Bhakti Yoga, right? So that is the conclusion of first section. And because it concluded with the section, one wants to know more about Bhakti Yoga. So that is the next section. Entire section dedicated to how, what is the importance of Bhakti Yoga and how one can perform. We concluded that. Now the last section, which is knowledge, how one can live in this world, so that he can perform Bhakti Yoga. That is this, right? Perfection of Jnana is Bhakti Yoga. So they also call this section as Jnana because it gives you the knowledge on how to live in this world. Right?
1 to 6 is Karma Yoga, right?
Yeah, you can say Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga that points to Bhakti Yoga, right? The real Karma Yoga means detached work, right? But when one understands actually the goal of work, the goal of sacrifice is God, right? Perfection of actions, action performed to please God, right? So then that points to Bhakti Yoga. But then Bhakti Yoga is, so then one wants to know what is Bhakti Yoga. That is given in the next section. But the Jiva is in the material world. He needs to know how the world operates. So he needs knowledge about this world. That is Jnana, 13th to 18th chapter. Again, the perfection of Jnana, Krishna says in the 18th chapter is Bhakti Yoga again. So again, everything leads to Bhakti Yoga. So overall, Bhagavad Gita is giving enough knowledge so that one seriously takes to Bhakti Yoga. Right? So we already discussed in brief about this. Knower of the field, knowledge and process, Jnanam, and the object of knowledge. Right? So let's go to chapter. You can all unmute yourself and read after me. Okay, so we'll cover potentially up to 7 verses, 3 and 4. Okay. Arjuna Vacha
Arjuna Vacha
Prakritim Purusham Chaiva
Prakritim Purusham Chaiva
Kshetram Kshetrajna Namevacha
Kshetram Kshetragnam Evacha
Etat Veditum
Etat Veditum Chami
Jnanam Jneyam Sakeshava
Jnanam Jneyam Chakesava
Bhagavan Vacha
Sri
Sri
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Vacha
Uvacha
Idam Sariram Kaunteya
Idam
Idam
Sariram
Sariram
Kaunteya
Kaunteya
Kshetram Iti Abhidhiyate
Kshetram
Kshetram
Iti
Iti
Abhidhiyate
Abhidhiyate
Etadyo Veti Tam Prahu
Etat Yog
Etadyo
Vetti Tam
Veditam
Prahu
Prahu
Kshetrajna Iti Tatvida.
Kshetrajna Iti
Kshetrajna Iti
Tadvida.
Tadvita.
Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, the nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of the knowledge, and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field."
So Lord himself directly answers the 3 and 4 questions. Right? So Arjuna asked about 5 things, right? Prakriti,
Nature.
Purusha, the enjoyer.
The
Field, right? Kshetra. Kshetra means field.
field.
Knower of the field, Kshetrajna. And of knowledge, Jnana. The object of knowledge. The object of knowledge is who? So we all have the curiosity to know things about things in this world. Is it true or not? Right? But actually, what is the most important thing to know? That we don't. So this chapter tells about what is the thing that we should actually really, what is the real object of knowledge? We seek knowledge in this world. That is the nature, human nature. Human nature is to know what is what. That is the nature. But actually, we should know what is the ultimate object of knowledge. So we'll discuss that. So we discussed in brief already, so I'll not discuss this. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi.
Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi.
vidhi.
Sarvakshetreshu Bharata.
Sarvakshetreshu Bharata.
Bharata.
Kshetrajnayor Jnanam
Kshetrajnayor Jnanam.
Yatta Jnanam Matam Mama.
Yattajnanam matam mama.
Matam mama.
So Krishna is clarifying. Kshetrajnam cham chapi mam vidhi. Right? Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna means the knower of the field. The field is, what is the field? What is the field actually? Here in this context, I just
Kurukshetra.
the Kurukshetra.
Body.
Yeah, the human body is also field, because here you're focusing on Atma, Paramatma, Purusha. So it's primarily it is the body. Body is like a field, correct? In a field, we can we can grow nice vegetables. We can grow anything we want, correct? We can cultivate the field. So similarly, the body also can be cultivated to do the right thing so that one achieves perfection. Right? So here, Krishna is saying, Kshetrajnam cham mam vidhi, means I am the knower of the field. Right? Krishna is the real knower. For example, we don't know how our hair is growing, how our nails are growing. We think we know about our body, but are we the real knowers? Not really. You don't know how the digestion is happening every day. Somebody arranged within your body to purify the food, supply the energy to the entire body. Even though we think we know our body, we don't know a lot of things within our body itself. Correct? You all agree? We don't
Yes,
know
Prabhu.
the disease. We are not even in control of our own body. For example, when the nature call comes, nobody can stop themselves, right? They have to attend the call. So a lot of things are not in our control within the body, but they are in actually control of another person. Kshetrajna. Real Kshetrajna is the God. Kshetrajnam cham mam means me. Krishna is saying, right? So Kshetrajnam cham mam vidhi. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. It is only not one person's body. I am in the body of everybody. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. Right? Sarva means all. Kshetreshu means in bodily fields. Right? Kshetrajnayor jnana. Right? So the knowledge about what happens within the body, right? The knower of the field, right? The field, the kshetra means the field of activities, the body. Kshetrajnayo, and the knower of the field, jnana, knowledge of, right? Yat tach jnanam matam mama. I am the actual knower of all of the things, right? Yeah, please read now. It makes much easier to understand now.
O son of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion.
I am also the knower. The Jiva thinks he is the knower, he is the only knower, the soul. But actually, besides the soul, there is also Paramatma, that is Krishna. I am also the knower of in all bodies. And to understand this body, this human body, and its knower, Kshetra and Kshetrajna, is called knowledge. Right? Actually, this is the real knowledge. It's not about how we can make our livelihood. We think that is the knowledge. But actually, the real knowledge is to know who is Kshetra, and what is Kshetra, and who is the Kshetrajna, the real knower of the field. One who understands how to utilize this body, and one who understands God in the service of God. That is the real knowledge. Right? That is my opinion. Yeah, please read this part, Prabhu.
The Lord says, I am the knower of the field of activities in every individual body. The individual may be the knower of his own body, but he is not in knowledge of other bodies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present as the Super Soul in all bodies, knows everything about all bodies. He knows all the different bodies of all the various species of life. A citizen may know everything about his patch of land, but the king knows not only his palace, but all the properties possessed by the individual citizens.
Hmm. Very clearly. So Lord says, a citizen may know everything about his patch of land, but the king knows not only his palace, is possessed by all individuals. God is like the king. He is in the heart of every jiva. So because he is a super soul, so he knows about everybody, not just himself. Similarly, one may be the proprietor of body individually, but the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all bodies. Right? He is just like king is the proprietor of all lands. He can take away land of everybody. In today's world, it is the government. Government can take away everybody's land, irrespective of what we think or what we say, right? If they want. They don't do it, but they can do it. Yeah. Yeah. So the body consists of senses. Supreme Lord is Rishikesha, which means the controller of senses. He is the original controller of all senses. So Lord is called Rishikesha. We think we can control our senses, but can we really control? We cannot actually. It is Rishikesha. Lord is the real controller of our senses. If you want to control your senses of tongue, what not to eat, or what to hear, what not to hear, right? Or what to think, what not to think. What is the best way? It is by surrendering to God we can actually control, because He is the Rishikesha. He can control your senses, right? Just as the king is the original controller of activities of the state, citizens are secondary controllers. We are always we think we are the controller, but we are actually secondary controller, because we base our actions based on the order of the primary controller, right? Yeah, so that's a very important point. Yeah, please read this, Prabhu.
This body is called the Kshetra, and within it dwells the owner of the body and the Supreme Lord, who knows both the body and the owner of the body. Therefore, he is called the knower of all fields.
Yeah. Just think like agricultural. Suppose the king is there, and under his country there are thousands of agricultural fields, and all the different farmers, they own different parts of the lands, but king is considered the owner of all the lands, right? So similarly, he is the knower of all the fields. He knows everything, how which fields are growing well, which are not growing well, and people ultimately collect, pay their taxes. Even today, the land for all the facilities, we pay every year taxes for the home you own. Why? Because that is how ultimately he is the real owner. Actually, government is the real owner, whether we agree or not. Okay, we are the beneficiary, but they are the primary controllers. Yeah, please read this.
In this chapter, it will also be explained that out of the two knowers, one is fallible and the other is infallible. One is superior and the other is subordinate. One who understands the two knowers of the field to be one and the same contradicts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who states here very clearly, I am also the knower of the field of activity. One who misunderstands a rope to be a super serpent is not in knowledge.
Lot of people think, uh, actually, through spiritual understanding, there is only one God, and the God is present within you, and you become God when you actually realize God. That is clearly Krishna says here, I am also the knower. Means the jiva is distinct from Krishna. You see very clearly, right? kshetragnam chapi mam vidhi, right? Chapi, right? I'm also chapi. I'm also certainly, right? So very clearly we can understand we will never become God. Okay, we should be very clear about it. We will only remain as his loving servants, right? We will never think that by practicing yoga you can become God. That is very absurd and foolish. Krishna clearly says, I am also the knower. Means there are two owners, there are two controllers. One is the Jiva, the second is God himself. Yeah, please read this line.
In this chapter, it will also be explained that out of the two knowers, we just read.
So, one who understands the two knowers of the field to be one and same contradicts the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, one who thinks, oh, we will merge into God, there are a lot of phony so-called philosophers and spiritualists. They say we become God. This verse clearly contradicts that. I am also the knower of the field of activity. Krishna himself very clear. One who misunderstands a rope to be serpent is not in knowledge. Rope is never going to be serpent. So one should be very clear. There are different kinds of bodies and there are different owners of the bodies. Tat kshetram yacha yadricha
Tat kshetram yacha yadrikcha
yadvikari yatascha yad
yadvikari yatascha yad
sachayo yat prabhavascha
sachayo yat prabhavascha
tat samasena me shruno.
tatsamasena me shrunu.
Please read. Archana Mataji.
Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are.
So now Krishna is, before describing the details, he is actually giving a synopsis, or just telling what he's going to talk about. Description of this field, or kshetra, field of activity, right? How it is constituted, what its changes are. So the body goes through various changes, right? So it is born, it grows, stays for some time like that. It produces some offsprings. It now it dwindles and finally dies, right? This is common with any animal, any human, or even take any plant. Same thing, same. So what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. Rishabir bahudha gitam
Bahudagītam
Chandobhir vividhai pratak
Chandogirvividhai Pratak
Brahmashutras padaischaiva
Brahmasura Pradishchaiva
hetumadbhir vinischitai.
Nishchitai.
That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect.
Rishibhir Bahuda Gitam. Gita means song or described, right? Rishibhir Bahuda means various great sages have described. It's not just me telling this. Other great sages they have also mentioned, right? About what? The knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by them. It is especially present in Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutra, right? Brahma Sutra means Vedanta Sutra, with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Vedanta Sutra is summary of all the Vedanta knowledge. Veda Anta. Veda means knowledge. Anta means conclusion or the summary or the most essence. It is the summary of entire Vedas is called Vedanta, and it is put in some short formulas. That's why it's called Sutra. Sutra means a small formula that describes a large philosophical concept. So Vedanta Sutra is about I think 700 aphorisms, short phrases. Like for example, the first phrase is called the first, the stanza, the sutra of Vedanta Sutra. There are like 700 plus Vedanta Sutras that summarizes entire wisdom of existence. Like all the Vedas summarized into those sutras, but nobody can really understand until they understand, the fundamentals of Vedas and all. But Gita is like a summary of all the wisdom of Vedanta Sutra also, right? In a conversational tone, right? It has everything that one needs to know. The first aphorism is Athato Brahma Jignasa. I don't know if I have explained this before. Athato Brahma Jignasa means now, therefore, you inquire into absolute truth. Athato, now, therefore, Brahma Jignasa, inquire into Brahman, inquire into existence. So the question is, why now? Why not before? Now that you have a human body, you are ripe for understanding the purpose of life. Previously, you may have had various animal life or reptile or tree. All those forms are not suitable to achieve the understanding of the purpose of life. Now, you have the ability to inquire into the purpose of life. Those abilities are not developed in other bodies. But now that you have, go inquire into the real purpose. Right? And what you should inquire then? Athato Brahma Jignasa. So the what to inquire, the inquiry should be about what is the origin of everything. So if you look at the sutra, it's not very evident what it is talking about, right? So a guru has to explain what is Atata Brahma Jignasa for us, right? So after hearing from guru, we understand, oh, okay, so this is talking about the human body. Because one has a human body, he has the understanding, or the ability to inquire into the purpose of life, right? And then the second aphorism is what is that? Brahma Jignasa. Janmadhyasya yataha. Janmadhyasya yataha means what is the origin of Janma and Adi? Janma means what is the origin of everything, right? What is the original source of everything? So that is so you should inquire, but the inquiry should not be about how I can get my bread tomorrow. That is somehow or other arranged for even animals. Animals also get food tomorrow. You are also getting food. That's not about, don't just hang on to basic instincts of life. Food, shelter, these things are available even for animals. Somehow or other. You may not be sophisticated like yours, but they're already arranged. You are given a human body, you are given better dwelling, you are given better facilities where your life is not threatened on a daily basis. Now you inquire into absolute truth. That is inquire into the origins of everything. right? So that is the second sutra. So in this way, the sutras go on, right? It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and the effect. So that is given there. Yeah. Mahabhutani ahankaro
Mahabhutani ahankaro
buddhiravyaktameva cha
avyaktamev cha
kriyani dasaikam cha
Indriyani
indriyani
dasaikam cha
dasaikam cha
panchachendriya gochara
panchatendriya
panchatendriya
gochara
gochara
ichadvesha sukham dukham
ichha dvesham sukham dukham
sukham dukkam
sanghataschetana dhriti
sangha
gatas
chetana
chetana
dhriti
sthiti
etat kshetram samasena
etat
etat
kshetram
kshetram
samasena
samasena
vikaram udahrita
savikaram
savikaram
udahrtam.
udatam.
yeah please read.
The five elements false ego, intelligence, and unmanifested, and the 10 senses and the mind, the five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions.
So as we understood, all these, if you look at all these elements, they exist within the body, right? The five great elements: earth, water, air, ether, right? Earth, water, air, fire, ether, five elements, right? These are the gross elements. And the gross means they are physical in nature. Like earth you can touch, water you can touch, fire you can see, you can't touch it. I mean, you can touch it, but it will burn it. Air you can't even see, but you can feel, you can touch it, right? So there, one is subtler over the other, right? Either is space. Space is even more subtler than air. So these are the five great elements, and there are three subtle elements, even subtler than the five. Ether is false ego, intelligence, and the mind. Three things, right? So false ego is the identity. The jiva, like all of us, right? For example, it's called ego. Ego means identity. False ego means false identity. What is the false identity of the jiva? The jiva thinks he is the enjoyer. He's the body. He's the body. He thinks that he's the body, right? That is called false ego. Actually, the jiva is spirit soul. It has nothing to do with this material nature. It belongs to spiritual world. But when he is in this material world, he thinks he is the enjoyer. Right? He is the doer. So because he thinks he is the owner, he is the doer, he goes through so much suffering in this world, right? Happiness, distress, right? All these hatred, desire, all these are existing because the jiva thinks he is the doer in this world. Once false ego is nullified by surrender to God, one will get rid of it. He will not, he is happy in every circumstance because he has clear understanding of the role of God in everything that happens in his life. So he is not distressful. He accepts things as they are. Right? The 10 senses and the mind, right? The Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. Karmendriyas are legs, skin, hands, those like that. And the mind is a subtle element. 5 sense objects, desire, hatred. So Prabhupada explains about all these elements, right? The 5 great elements are gross representation of false ego, which in turn represents the primal stage of false ego, technically called material conception or tamasa buddhi, intelligence and ignorance. This further represents the unmanifested state of the three modes. The unmanifested modes of materialism are called pradhan. So this is actually described more in detail in Bhagavatam. It's out of scope for Bhagavad Gita. So the whole creation, the how this whole material world created was a big subject. So everything starts with pradhan. Pradhan is the unmanifested material nature. It's like a pot of things put together, all the cut subjects put together, right? So like that pradhan. When it is agitated, means a little bit heated. From there comes what is it called? Forgot the name. Mahatatva. Mahatatva. From Mahatatva further expands into the subtle elements, right? The intelligence, ego, and then mind. From them comes the gross elements, the earth, air, water, air, ether. So it's a whole creation process that goes through in forming what all these elements described here are part of that. Right? One who desires to know the 24 elements, these got 24 elements, right? So all the elements within the material existence, right? All these elements, there are total 24. One who understands these thoroughly is called Sankhya Yogi, right? So he can understand perfectly how things work in this world. One who understands it. One who desires to know the 24 elements in detail along with their interactions should study the philosophy in more detail. In Bhagavad Gita, summaries of that. Bhagavatam describes in detail. The body is the representation of all these factors. Everything is in the body. There are changes of the body, which are 6 in number. The body is born, it grows, it stays, produces byproducts, and it begins to decay, and at last vanishes. Therefore, the field is a non-permanent material thing. The field, kshetra, is actually non-permanent thing because it is material in nature. However, kshetrajna, the knower of the field, is its proprietor is different. He is eternal, right? Kshetrajna is eternal. Yeah. So that ends this section. So next section is very important. Very beautiful verses. Amanitvam ajambhitvam. Let's not repeat. I'm just reading. Ahimsa kshantirajyavam. Acharyopasanam saucham. Stairyam atma vinigraha. Indriyardheshu vairagyam. Anahankara evacha. Jnanam mrichu jara vyadi. Janma mrichu jara vyadi. Dukkadoshanudarshanam. Ashakti anabhishvangha. Putra darga grahadishu. Nityam cha samachittatvam. Ishtanat Ishtanistopanishnattishu pattishu Mai Chananya Yogena. Again, Krishna speaks Bhakti over here. Mai Chananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. Avyabhicharini. Vyabhicharini means one who seeks so many things. A lady, or one who seeks so many people. Avyabhicharini means one who ekagra chitta, means one-pointed attention bhakti, right? Vivikta desha sevitvam aratir janasamad samsade ajyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etadjnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad atonyata. So Krishna concludes here nicely then. Eta jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yada atonyata. Means atonyata means remaining. Whatever remains is called ajnana. Whatever is described here, this is knowledge. That's it. Everything else is, it may go in the name of jnana, but it actually is ajnana. That's what Krishna is saying. And the process to know is ananya bhakti. Avyabhicharini bhakti. Very clear. All these I declare to be knowledge. Besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Yeah. So we'll discuss each of these qualities. This is a very practical topic. We'll cover next week. Prabhupada gives a wonderful explanation for each characteristic. What is real humility means? What is pridelessness? How one can develop all these qualities. Okay. So we'll end here. 7 verses we covered. Any questions? Is everything clear? So we discussed. So the first verse began with the questions by Arjuna. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnana, Jneyam, right? So these, and then Krishna explained what they mean, and we in brief discussed about some of these. So next week we'll discuss about Jnana. Jnana, right? What is knowledge? Real knowledge is what Krishna describes. Everything else is actually not really. Is besides that, everything is considered ignorance. Okay, so we end the class here. If you don't have any questions, we'll connect again next week. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.